Welcome back, everybody. My name's Andrew and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. So I apologize, it is very dark. We are working inside of our pole barn house. Well, as you can see, that does not have power. We're nowhere near that point. But we've started wiring in our rough-in electrical for our main panel and everything else in the house. And today we're going to address something that's been an extremely popular question on the channel. So that question's been, are you going to install a generator plug for your panel? Absolutely. This is Florida. We get hit with hurricanes, tornadoes, all kinds of other stuff from time to time. So power outages are quite common. We have multiple generators for backup. We've learned our lesson over the years, and I've already known that I was going to put a generator plug to help run the house. I'm going to do things a little different today. One, to save money, and two, because I don't care for certain ways to install generator plugs. So I'll explain. So I'm going to be doing a very simplistic kit here. It's basically just a metal slide plate. It's called a generator interlock kit that will mount to the front of this panel. We'll cover that in this video. And what it basically does is allow me to mount, say, a generator plug right here. So let's just say if that's my generator plug right there, and it will be, what you cannot have happen, you cannot have your main 200 amp breaker be in the on position while you have your generator plug on. That is an extremely dangerous situation for the power companies. A lot of people, when they backfeed or install generator plugs wrong in panels, they have it so the generator is actually powering this panel up while this main 200 amp breaker can be on, and that creates a very dangerous situation for the simple fact that it can now send power back out through the power line while the power company is trying to safely work to restore your power. So you have two options. The option we're going with today is install this generator interlock kit, which is a very thick metal plate that will slide up and allow the generator breaker to be on. But the only way that it can slide up is for the main 200 amp breaker to be in the off position. So it makes it to where both of these cannot be on at the same time, creating, again, that electrical shock hazard or dangerous situation for the linemen that are out there working. So the other option, the one I'm not crazy about because it's very expensive, is called a generator transfer switch. And it's a box you mount outside on the house. You plug in your generator to that, and it will only allow you to run but so many circuits in a panel like this. Now, that's kind of a foolproof way to do it, and a way to do it if you are not very familiar with the electrical side of things. And by the way, if you're not comfortable with any of this, you need to be having a certified electrician install all this for you. But that interlock kit will only run but so many circuits, whereas what I'm putting in will power up this entire panel. Now, that's good and that's bad. One, for the simple fact of my generator cannot power everything in this entire house. So you've got to be mindful of that. Come in here and throw all your other breakers off. Only power up the necessities that you need while you're in a power outage situation. Otherwise, you're going to trip your generator out there and you're going to constantly overload it. So there's no point in having every breaker and try to run everything in the house. It depends on the wattage of your generator, what you're going to turn on, what you're going to do. Chances are your generator, if you got a small one on wheels like us, it's not going to run your whole house AC. You don't need to be running an electric hot water heater, an electric stove, things like that. Those are very power intensive accessories for the house. Now, the good news is, because we're doing this pole barn house with thick blown in insulation, my HVAC guy thinks, because we're doing a very small central unit with a soft start addition to it, he thinks that my generator is big enough to actually run that. So there is a chance that I can cool down the house, don't need to run anything else while I'm doing that. We'll find out down the road if it'll run it. Then I can cut the main AC off, and our generator is plenty big enough. It's almost 10,000 watts. We can run anything else in the house that we want, since we're doing propane accessories. So, but TVs, appliances, all that stuff, you're talking to minimal wattage there. So the plug I'm going to install today is a 30 amp plug. Depending on the size of your generator, you may install a 50 amp service. But I have set this up in a way that I can swap that out easily in the future, even with insulation on the wall. Pull a heavier gauge wire, put a 50 amp receptacle on the outside for that generator. So keep that in mind as you're watching what I'm doing. This is set up for me to change down the road should we get a bigger generator. But as of right now, I just don't think we are going to get a bigger one, especially if this will wind up running AC as well. This will cover anything we can ever need in a power outage situation. So I'm going to be mounting this decorative box on the outside of the house to make it real easy for my lap side to trim around. Here's my generator plug box. I'm actually going to mount this to this panel right here. And this also leaves me room to come in this panel down the road to pull a phone line in the house should we ever wind up getting internet out here. All this will come pulling right in beneath the main panel. I'm going to have a door here down the road so I can easily access. That's why it'd be very easy for me to change this out to a 50 amp plug, 50 amp wire down the road if I ever need to. Plus this panel right here gives me outside access for things like that phone line. So let me get my, figure out where I want to mount this, get my wire, run through the side of the house. We'll go mount this outside, seal everything up. I'll show you the other reason why I use this. And we'll get the wire pulled up into the panel, figure out exactly where we're going to mount our breaker, and then I'll show you how to install that interlock kit on the breaker panel door that itself. So I've actually purchased a 3-conductor wire because that's what a lot of these plugs actually require. You see it's got 4 prongs, so it's 3 conductors plus a ground is what you get in a 3-conductor wire like this. I've also run conduit that's big enough for me to upgrade to a 6-gauge wire down the road and actually pull through here if I ever go up to 50 amps of service. So whenever I mentioned our generator wattage earlier, that was peak starting watts, but continuous watts and the amperage output on it, it's only got a 30 amp output, which is quite common of an output for generators of the size that we have right there. So such a short run of wire right here. This particular 10-gauge wire right here is rated for 30 amps, but if you're going to run any higher than that, it does not hurt to go ahead and go to the next size up, 8-gauge or even going to 6-gauge. I just didn't have any, so I'm going with the 10 that I do have. Like I said, it should be fine for the 2 to 3 foot run of wire that we have right here. So it's very easy. This generator plug has a red. As you can see, when you get a 3-conductor wire, you get a red. Has a white, which we also have. It's got a hookup right here for our black hot. And then our ground actually hooks up inside of this panel right here to this ground. It's got a clamp in here. I'll show you in just a second to where we'll clamp those two together. Then we'll wire all that up in the panel a little bit later down the road. I can't do that right now, but I will show you on this video how that will be done. All right, so as you can see now, I have the 3 colors hooked up to the color codes on the back side of the plug, and the generator plug ground is hooked to the ground coming out of the wire, out of the wall, where it'll be grounded inside of the panel. So a very straightforward hookup. So anytime you run a new wire into one of your panels, you actually have to clamp it. So you'll knock out one of these metal knockouts out of the bottom for the appropriate size clamp. I'm using a 3/4 inch clamp for this size wire right here. You'll insert this, and then we'll run our wire through it, and that's how we'll clamp it. All right, now we'll run this wire up and through that knockout. And code also requires that you nail this wire within 12 inches of the outside of that panel using a wire staple. All right, so I've stripped the insulation back to make it easier to fit everything in the panel. Now we're at the rough end stage of our house right now, so there's no power to this panel, nothing to actually connect until I pass my rough end electrical inspection. But we can go ahead and talk about how you hook this up in case you're watching for that. So since I have 4 wires coming out of my 4-wire connector, and there's 4 wires that also come off of the generator itself, you'll have your ground wire, your neutral wire, and your 2 hot wires, which is your red and black. This is what will actually bring 2 separate 110 volts or 220, depending on which way you look at it, inside. And then here is a common neutral that they will use. All right, so if we were actually going to hook this up right now, because this is the first panel or first disconnect in my system, as in this is not a sub panel, this is not feeding off of another panel, I will actually be putting a bonding screw in up here, and it means this bar right here, these neutral bars on both sides, are also going to be your ground bars. So you would hook up your white and your ground to this bar. Now if this was a sub panel, I would have that bonding screw out, you would have a separate ground bar over here on the side, and you'd have your neutral bar. Your ground would go to that separate bar on your sub panel, your white would go to your neutral bar as it does in this panel right here. So that's the difference between a main panel and sub panel. You actually have to separate out your neutrals and grounds, whereas your first panel in the system, like this right here, which is what the majority of people probably will be hooking up to, you will combine both of those. Then that would leave you left with your white and black, which you hook into your generator plug. Either side does not matter. So ultimately that's how it would be. These two hooked right in here, and that's how it will be down the road once we pass our rough end inspection. And these 2 wires hooked into any one of these screws on our neutral bar. Now I'll actually take a piece of the insulation that I stripped off, slide it back over all my wires, and label this generator. That way I know what is in this panel for down the road. Now we're about to install the interlock kit, and I am 99% sure the plug, your generator plug, will have to go in the top right section of your panel for this kit to work. We're about to look at the instructions and check that out, but it's critical that you use this location. So if you already had a plug here, for example, with the wires hooked up feeding something else in your house, what you would actually have to do is remove that and find a different spot on the panel to snap it into. But this spot has to be for the generator plug up top right here. All right, so this is how our interlock kit comes right here. It's very simple. It's quite expensive for no more than it is, but much cheaper than doing a full transfer switch. Now you have to buy these specifically for the type of panel that you have. I'm using a Homeline 200 amp indoor panel. These will vary based off the panel that you have. All right, so this looks very straightforward. It's just got a picture to show the correct direction to put this in. And yes, we will be using the top plug as the generator plug, as I had imagined. And this looks to be properly spaced for the bar that's right here. So we will line this up as the picture shows. It says to drill 3 holes with the provided drill bit and put this together. Place this bar over first. Then the actual interlock slide bar, and then these cap-headed kind of nuts right there. But before we put those in, we'll use some of this thread locker right here. All right, so now our generator interlock plate is in there. It slides freely just like we want. So we can go put this panel on the main breaker panel and verify that the main breaker cannot be turned on if the generator plug is in the on position. All right, so I have my panel loosely on because, again, you know, we have to pass rough-in inspection. We're not at that point yet, but I'm checking fitment of our interlock kit. So it comes with stickers to label that this is a generator plug. It also comes with a caution and warning sticker saying where the generator hookup or should be. And it also comes with some codes and guidelines. That's a nice sticker to have right there for the National Electric Code and a few other things as well to show that this is a compatible kit right here. So what you can't see is this is off position on my breaker. It says off right here, on over here. And right now I have the generator flipped up to the on position. So if we were in a power outage situation, right now it would be supplying power to this panel. But as you can see, I cannot flip on the main breaker right here because this is in the way. So if I were to flip off the generator, this drops down. Now I can supply power back to the house. So this interlock keeps both of these from being on at the same time and again causing that dangerous situation. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed that little install. This is something I had to get done and installed before we get spray foam insulation blown in the wall. Need to go ahead and get that penetration through wire hooked up. So if you're interested in these type of videos, don't forget to hit a little thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and you can continue to watch this. I'm filming everything as I build this pole barn house right here. As soon as we pass rough-in electrical inspections, we'll move on toward sheetrock and installation, and ultimately getting back to wiring this panel up, inserting all our breakers, and doing our final electrical installation and hookup of everything in the house. So like I said, if you're interested in that, we would appreciate you subscribing to the channel and watching along. Catch you on the next video.